Guess there's no audio. There we go.
Sachs waiting on deck, but the game right now is at the plate. High fly ball into right field. She is gone!
That may be a controversial video, given that we're in San Francisco, so I apologize. But to me, that's my best sports memory, hands down. It was the '88 World Series, Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Oakland A's. It's the bottom of the ninth. The Dodgers were down by 1 run. And Oakland's unstoppable and unhittable MVP, Dennis Eckersley, was at the plate, or pitching rather. Everyone thought that the Dodgers were going to send out Anderson, but surprisingly, they sent out Kirk Gibson. He was literally hobbling on 2 injured legs. He limped to the plate and the crowd was going wild. There was 2 strikes, there's 2 outs. Things weren't looking good. But standing on 2 battered legs, he used his entire upper body to launch the ball over the right field fence. The rest is history. It was 25 years ago, but I still get chills down my back. I can still hear the boom of the crowd, and I can feel the vibration of the bleachers. That competition, that energy, that feverish fandom, it's not just for baseball or for traditional sports, but it's universal. We're all fans of something. I grew up a diehard LA sports fan. The Kings, the Dodgers, the Lakers. I idolized Magic Johnson. I remember exactly where I was when Kobe Bryant was drafted. Sports and video games defined my childhood. Here's me and my brother Brandon. We're playing Sega Genesis. I'm not sure what game. It was Streets of Rage, NBA Jam, General Chaos. It was one of the classics. Whatever the game was, I'm pretty confident that I was kicking his ass. As I got older, though, I tried my hand in the competitive scene. I was actually number 2 in the US on BattleNet when Warcraft 2 got re-released. And I was on a world-ranked Rainbow Six team back on M-Player. I still have really fond memories running around Oil Rig, yelling at my teammates on Ventrilo to get on the roof to scout. Competitive gaming was entirely different back then. We didn't have large stadiums filled with crowds of fans. It was actually quite the opposite. Most of the time you'd play from home. You'd communicate through a crappy Ventrilo client, and you'd have little to no spectators. It was still a hobby for us. If you were lucky, maybe you could buy a few packs of Magic cards with your winnings, but I still loved every minute of it. And I knew that we were just touching the surface of the potential of the competitive gaming scene. Flash forward to today, League of Legends is the fastest growing sport ever. It's watched by millions and millions of fans all across the globe. And what's even more fascinating, these aren't traditional sports fans. These are new sports fans that went from playing their favorite games to now spectating them. In some markets like China, League of Legends is actually the #1 sport. Not esport, the #1 sport. Think about that. It's pretty tough to comprehend. Today, we're going to scratch the surface of Riot's esports journey. But before I dive into this, I want to say 2 disclaimers. First, this keynote's not going to be fully comprehensive. I'm going to highlight key moments and philosophies, but our entire history of esports would probably put a lot of you to sleep. Besides, we're on the back end of this conference, and judging by the looks of people, it looks like a good 60 to 80% of you guys are pretty hungover, especially that guy. It's okay. It's St. Patty's Day today. It's the one day that gingers get to be cool, and so I'm going to feel like that guy tomorrow morning. Second, there's no silver bullet to running an esport organization. Your context and your situations are probably wildly different. So make decisions that are right for you and right for your players. And whatever you decide, keep fans as your North Star. So if we can agree on that, here's a look at how Riot's Esport philosophy is driven. We want to craft experiences for fans that are A, consistent, B, inclusive, and C, high quality. Consistency. So we created the League of Legends Championship Series and other pro leagues across the globe to help bring stability and consistency to fans of esports. Regularly scheduled matches meant that our fans could tune in on a consistent basis. And it meant that our pros could actually make a living and have a profession out of playing League of Legends. Inclusive. We wanted to make it much easier and more fun for fans to watch their favorite teams compete, live or online, week in and week out. And high quality experiences. Production, game coverage, storytelling. We wanted to rival the best of sports because that level of quality is what our esport fans deserve. Let's go back to the end of 2011. I just left a career at Goldman Sachs, private equity, to follow my mentor to Riot. I started working in finance with him, but I quickly found myself in a much more fun course, which was leading our esport team. And by team, I mean 5 people. I was a former finance guy, I was an avid gamer, and I was now super fan tasked with creating our League of Legends esports strategy. I traveled to nascent tournaments scattered across the globe to get familiar with the landscape. But there were dozens of one-offs and even sometimes conflicting competitions that were happening all across the globe. There was DreamHack, there was IEM, there was IPL, there was a half dozen MLG tournaments, and that's just to name a few. And each one of them had a wildly different qualification metric. I remember a meeting where I tried to get to the team to explain to me, like, walk me through the competitive structure here. It was overly complex and it was truly uninspiring. It was like learning Mandarin, but from someone who doesn't speak Mandarin. I mean, how could we possibly expect our fans to understand and follow the competitive circuit if back at home we couldn't even explain it to ourselves? If you don't know when your favorite team is playing, how can you easily follow them? If you can't follow them, how do you build a bond or find fellow fans or forge that emotional connection that's necessary, that drives other sports fandom? You simply can't. I mean, part of the magic of Sunday football is that it's always on Sunday. It wasn't rocket science, and it became abundantly clear to us. We needed an ecosystem that was consistent, that was easy to understand, and that catered to both fans and players. We developed a new competitive structure. It was the League of Legends Championship Series. We wanted pros to be able to concentrate on just one thing, competing at their best. Why do we look up to athletes in the way that we do? What makes Kobe Bryant, Kobe Bryant? It might be because you've grown up watching him. It might even be because you play basketball and dream of trying to be like him one day. For fans all over the world, he's a truly aspirational figure. He's the best of the best, or at least he was the best of the best. So what prevented us from having lots of these aspirational heroes early in our esports story? For one thing, playing basketball is Kobe Bryant's full-time job. It wasn't always that way with esports pros, who have often had another source of income just to stay afloat. Fans look up to these guys. To be at their best, the sport deserves pros with dedicated careers. They shouldn't have to have a second job. They should only be concerned with practicing and playing at their absolute best. And to enable this, we created that ecosystem in which teams get a stipend and players get a guaranteed salary whether they win or whether they lose. And finally, pros had the freedom to train and compete on a regular basis. As a result, we actually saw the level of play skyrocket. Another key difference between sportsmen like Kobe and the early esport athletes, Kobe's part of an exclusive sports league. It's the NBA. That exclusivity allows the Lakers to have the kind of stability that they can offer Kobe a long-term contract. They don't have to win the NBA championship just to break even or to hang on to their players. Kobe's not constantly bouncing between teams that are forming and disbanding or trying to compete in multiple leagues with varied success or failure. Providing stability for pros and teams meant another important improvement. Talented pros had a structure where they could rise to the top. And let's go back a little bit to the sporadic structure of the old days. Back then, you often had to place first or second in a tournament just to break even on airfare costs and hotels and hopefully even make a few bucks. There's a pro, Wild Turtle. He plays for Team Immortals. Before any consistent structure, Wild Turtle's career was at the mercy of an unforgiving, unstable system that didn't really make sense. One bad tournament, One bad year, and Wild Turtle or his team would be completely out of there. When we put together this structure in the form of the LCS, he got a shot to focus on League full time. He took advantage of it, and now he's a pro on one of the top teams. But how many Wild Turtles out there didn't get that chance to develop or to succeed or to contribute to their esport in an awesome way because they couldn't go all in? Talent and team cultivation is key to the success of the sport, and consistency in league structure is how we got there. And when we made the call to develop our own league, we closed another road altogether. It was the open circuit. As I said before, there were multiple organizers that were competing and providing that packed calendar of international competition. It was a really controversial call that we had to make, and for some of our detractors, to this day it still is. To a young esport industry, exclusivity that demanded players and teams' time and attention for most of the year was jarring. It was even threatening and something that we still get flack for. But to us, it was a really critical step to give pros and teams the focus and support to make a legitimate career out of their sport. It may have been a controversial call, but we believe it's a decision that's played out quite well. Today, there are over 13 established leagues worldwide. It allows teams and players to build a regional fan base with regular weekly competition. Other esports are increasingly beginning to develop their own league systems as well. Creating regional fandom was the way to create a truly global sport. So with our competitive structure in place, our next goal was to improve the live and online viewing experience by making it an inclusive experience, accessible and welcoming to all of our fans. First, we made the online experience free. It seems straightforward right now and people take it for granted, but literally just a few years ago, tournament organizers had been charging for HD streams, and we made the decision to remove that friction. We publish a free-to-play game after all, so shouldn't viewing the experience also be free? How many of you guys are professional football fans? I'd love to see a raise of hands. Okay. Keep them raised, though, if you've been to a Super Bowl. Very few people. All right. There's a deliberate reason. Congratulations to you guys. Tickets are about $10,000 to go to Super Bowl. I want to hang out with those guys. Super Bowl is awesome, but it's intentionally designed to be a hyper-exclusive event. We deliberately designed our events, on the other hand, to be inclusive experience for all of our fans, even our World Championship. We've never priced out our fans. We'd rather eat the cost. The 2015 NALCS Summer Split Finals were at Madison Square Garden. Tickets were as low as $35. Even MSG thought we were crazy. They advised us that these tickets were way too low and that we'd see tickets for huge premiums on secondary sites. But this event actually had the lowest number of tickets for resale ever on StubHub and other sites for Madison Square Garden. Fans really wanted to be there rather than turn a quick profit. They weren't reselling their tickets. It's just one important way that we've started to diverge our path from traditional sports. We've always charged less than others have encouraged us to. And it's because our fans are young. They don't have the benefit of a large disposable income to invest in the sport. High ticket costs would price out our best fans. Those fans are the ones that make the experience so much fun and help create an awesome atmosphere for the millions of people tuning in at home. And if you actually can fork over the $10K for a Super Bowl ticket, you're likely not going to dab with Cam Newton and take a selfie with him or ask Peyton Manning for a slice of his Papa John's pizza. There's an intentional separation between pros and fans. And it's not right or wrong, by the way. It's just how it's always been done. For us, though, we made the deliberate decision to break down barriers between our pros and our fans. If you attend a regional qualifier, or even if you attend Worlds, there's a high likelihood that you're going to get a chance to high-five a pro, get your Poro autographed, or take a picture with them after a clutch win. This guy, Faker, the best player in the world. He's the Steph Curry of League of Legends. And here he is, just chilling with fans that waited hours to take a photo with him. Creating an experience that's inclusive and also fun comes down to how the venue showcases the live action. The size of the event really does matter. And by that, I actually don't mean bigger is better, which is great for me. Oh, guess the penis joke didn't work. There we go. All right. Events that are more intimate and packed to the brim and high energy are way more hype for the folks in the room and for all of those experiencing it through their screens at home. Here's our biggest event to date. It was in 2014. It was at the World Cup Stadium in Seoul, Korea. That was a surreal moment for all of us, to be surrounded by a sea of League of Legends fans. But it was actually way less than 1% of the total fans that enjoyed the event. Hosting a live event in front of that many eSport fans, it set records. But looking back, we actually realized that the massive outdoor arena in daylight lost a little bit of the magic and energy that we'd captured during some of the smaller events. In 2015, we actually pivoted to smaller indoor stadiums that translated energy better to fans at home. If you tune in later this year to the 2016 World Championships, you'll spot that we've chosen venues that showcase the events to their best, regardless of size. We may not be breaking attendance records, but that's never been our goal. The fan experience is about quality, not quantity. With the vast majority of fans watching outside of the arena, we have to think broader. And the last point about inclusive experiences, fans want emotional connections to the pros, which we've accomplished through storytelling. Who else can make you care about a Jamaican bobsled team? Or a Ukrainian ice skater who had to carve her own blades because her parents could barely afford to eat, let alone support her passion, yet now she's representing her country for her first time ever medal. The stories of blood, of sweat, and of tears required for any athlete to become legendary are the stories and narratives that pull on our heartstrings. Here's our version of an Olympics hero story. This is the trailer for our Legends Rising series, where we take an intimate, closer look at our pros.
You can sit in. I有记录。
다른 친구들보다 많이 유명하고 그런 게 좀 다른 점인 것 같고 친구들이랑 별로 크게 다를 건 없는 것 같아요. 네.
Suddenly everything fell apart. I thought I didn't want to play anymore. And I remember when I decided, okay, I'm gonna do this, no matter who was with me or who wasn't with me.
My role within the team is a lot more to be a leader than it's ever really been for me before.
You're generally always asking, but you're not making direct calls.
Eu não escondo nada, nem nas transmissões, nem nos campeonatos, então...
Vai focar o meu suporte!
Começar a chorar aqui, tá vendo?
但是就因为我刚过来，就慢慢的融入不到一起，然后就因为很多的战术不一样，然后去争吵。
可以上了，来了。操，又输了，这什么？秒拍啊，暴雨！
Cara, por que o Igor voltou pra Red, velho?
Vai invadir! Vai invadir! Olá, Beck!
甚至我是几乎快要崩溃，快要受不了，就是可能甚至他们有一点不信任我的感觉。不论是假日或者是平常在练习的时候，我都是很晚很晚练习到很晚很晚，然后。
回下啊！你们俩全部打起来！
等一下，谁在这？ Here we go. Here we go.
I always had this dream that I like to be the founder of something, the reason why something is there.
I'm not going to accept not going to Worlds. I'm not going to accept not doing well at Worlds. There's only going forward for me.
These pioneers, these athletes have been so courageous. It's made it easy for us to tell stories about them. And being a fan, it should be easy. They should be able to attend a live show if it comes to their town without breaking their bank. If they're staying at home or watching along with their friends, they should be able to tune into a show in the languages that they speak without a paywall and no network blackouts. And it should be fun, and it should be an engaging experience that they feel emotionally connected to wherever they are. That's what inclusive means to us. So we built a consistent league and an inclusive experience for fans, but it wasn't enough. We also had to create a polished, professional, and high-quality experience that left lasting memories. So that meant making a weekly broadcast for online viewers and epic events for live audiences. We wanted to create experiences that were worthy of our fans. Early esport fans were already passionate. That wasn't anything we ever had to solve for. What we wanted to give them, though, was a high-quality experience that matched that passion, something they'd be proud to show their friends and family, something that reflected just how seriously they took their sport. This wasn't an overnight evolution, though. It was day to day, it was month to month, it was year to year. It was many exercises of continually pushing the bar higher and higher. It was about hitting the reset button on everything that we thought esports was and redefining what our definition of good needed to be. It was never about patting each other on the back or admiring any progress that we made. It was what could we have done better and what's the fastest we can make that happen. A good example is the evolution of our broadcast studios. When we first set up our studio, it was the first dedicated broadcast center for a developer and a publisher. It was the embodiment of the commitment that we were making to esports, and it wasn't this. It was this. It was our first studio in 2013. It's pretty unimpressive. That's not me. It's another redhead guy that looks like me. But hey, you have to start somewhere. And for the record, we were so fired up to be in our own studio like this at the time, but there was no room for a studio audience. There wasn't even room for a team to work, so we were commuting back and forth from Riot headquarters just a couple miles away. We were growing quickly, though, and we knew we needed something bigger. So a year later, we moved into a studio in Manhattan Beach in 2014. It still wasn't our place, it wasn't our home, so we couldn't mold it for our fans or for ourselves, but it was great progress. And then last year, we finally moved into our own home. It was a studio across the street from Riot's headquarters, where we have weekly events every Saturday and Sunday. And now we're much closer to the mark, but it clearly took a lot of time to evolve. And we leveled this up pretty quickly. I mean, all things considered, 3 years isn't that much time. But we're still constantly asking ourselves, how can we do better next year? These pictures tell a pretty clear story of our investment in chasing quality. But our most important investment actually happened behind the scenes, in building a team to help bring these games to life. If your organization is just jumping into esports, I can't emphasize this enough. Hire gamers that care about fans. Craft internal teams that are dedicated to this and hire according to your values. Align with people and align with organizations that understand, that respect, that empathize with those fans. It's not going to be easy, but we had to and we will continue to pass on people and opportunities that don't get esports. A good example of this, we were looking to hire our head of broadcasting back in 2012. I remember our team was drooling over this specific candidate. He was a veteran of the Olympics. He had a half dozen Olympics under his belt. And on paper, he was truly perfect. He was an energetic guy, he had great personality, he knew how to connect with sports fans better than anyone we had talked to. But when we interviewed him, it was clear, night and day. Esports was a foreign language to him. He was fixated on fancy camera tricks, zooming into the game, close-ups on characters. That might make sense when you're watching the Olympics and you're seeing a pole vaulter or a gymnast do something amazing. But when you're watching a fast-paced strategy game that requires you to see every opponent's moves, camera tricks are distracting They don't give you the information that you need, and it's a horrible experience for the fans. The Olympic veteran also hadn't played a single game of League of Legends. He wasn't a gamer, period. We passed on that perfect on paper candidate. He wouldn't have been the right fit for us. The right people are highly skilled and can empathize with passionate gamers. Today, we actually do have several guys on the team who've worked in the Olympics, but they also took the time to learn and to really deeply immerse themselves in the world of esports. It's not enough to just have technical expertise unless you can understand the passion and apply it in a way that's meaningful to our fans. Let's take a look at one of the roles that definitely couldn't fake it. Shoutcasters. They're the voices of the matches. We had to look for voices that shared the passion, that understood the game on a deep level, and that were able to eloquently communicate the complexity of a fast-paced strategy game. Could you imagine if we had Bob Costa sitting at a casting desk trying to explain item builds and dissect team fights? I mean, it'd be like me trying to explain Olympic wrestling. Like, it's awesome, I appreciate it, but I'm certainly not an expert, and God hope that I don't have to explain it to anyone, because that would be terrible. I mean, he just wouldn't be a right fit for us. So we looked to pros that resonated with fans. This is Jat. He was a former pro player turned aspiring game designer at Riot. And as a former pro, his understanding of the game was next level. He was hungry to learn, and he was a precise, analytical guy, able to clearly explain the game to our players. And at Riot, casters didn't exist back then as a full-time, dedicated profession that was focused on their craft. People that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Bob Costas or others in the world. But now, these guys approach their work as seriously as any other on-air talent does. And they didn't just start from the bottom and get to where they are. I mean, we had CNN correspondents come in to teach our casters, how do you read from a teleprompter? Or when do you look at your fellow talent versus looking at the camera? We had to do drama improv training so that if a camera accidentally cuts them, instead of sheepishly covering their faces and laughing like some of our first tournaments where they actually did that, they can now roll with the punches. Or even vocal training, since our casters were going hoarse, it was an epidemic on the team. How do you teach them to speak from their chest as opposed to their throats? These are things that we take for granted in traditional sports, but it didn't exist in esports back then. All of this demanded rigorous prep, and all of these guys rose to the challenge. And the goal was never to copycat existing sport events. Instead, we actually saw an opportunity to cherry pick some of the best broadcast elements to bring our sport to life. We wanted to harness the adrenaline and the camaraderie of sport events in big arenas. I remember watching a Los Angeles Kings Stanley Cup celebration at Staples Center. I was with Brandon and Waylon and many other rioters. We were brainstorming, trying to figure out what elements in this event are going to make sense for our esport. Without the physicality, how's it going to work? Will fans know when and how to cheer? Is there going to be a pregame show, a postgame show? Do we want national anthems? Do we even want cheerleaders? Not a bad idea, but it'd be weird. It wouldn't be genuine to our fans. So we nixed that. And for our 2013 World Championship, what we saw the Kings do at Staples Center, we kind of learned from the best, and we felt ready to bring our own brand of esports to Staples Center. But we faced some questions along the way. I mean, I vividly remember getting on a call with Staples Center, and I was like, hey guys, you know, we're Riot Games. We'd love to throw a tournament with you guys in October. Like, Riot who? Like, Riot Games? Like, we're right down the street from you guys, League of Legends? Or like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, all right, well, anyways, we want to throw a video game tournament at your guys' arena. It'd be great. Blah blah blah. I'm like, wait. You guys want to throw a video game tournament at Staples Center? You know we're a sports venue, right? You're going to have people come to Staples Center to play video games? I was like, no, you got it entirely wrong. We're going to come to Staples Center to watch other people play video games. I mean, like, they're like, if you guys pre-fund this, we'll do it, but I don't think you're going to bring many people there. You can imagine their confusion. I mean, one of the most booked venues in the world, home to 3 professional sports teams, they were going to host a video game tournament? Well, we ended up selling out in less than an hour, and it was certainly one of the marquee events that's helped propel our sport. Ever since Staples Center, it's pretty rare that we need to convince a stadium to host one of our esport events. And so quality to us, it's not a fixed mark. It's a constantly moving bar that we hold ourselves to, always aiming to push beyond what we think is possible and to create the kind of esport entertainment that helps lead the industry. Here's a video showcasing the milestone moments from Season 1 to today.
With millions of people watching, with the crowd on hand, this is truly a global event.
Today, it's undeniable that esports is on the rise, and that's an understatement. Just a few years ago, the world was different. The mainstream media was obsessed with debating if esports was a real sport. Check out these athletic scholars debating the issue.
Actually, a fair amount of overlap. Actually, that's it. They're too young for there's strategy involved. You have to physically be able to do it. They're competing. Listen, is it a sport or not? I believe it's a sport. They get sports visas to enter the country.
That's not a sport.
That's not a sport.
It's not a real
We're talking about the 20 million people who are watching the damn thing.
And the money
they
that
gotta
they're
be
making.
crazier than the ones
big money to watch it.
It's $1 million pot.
That guy's got it right. Props to Soledad, though, for researching and explaining esports well ahead of any of her counterparts. But it wasn't just them. I mean, even 2 years ago, ESPN was asked about the rise of esports after the Amazon acquisition of Twitch. They said, quote, "It is not a sport. It's a competition. Chess is a competition. Checkers is a competition. Mostly, we're interested in doing real sports." But fast forward to today, this is the cover magazine, the esports issue for ESPN. The mainstream media is realizing they can't ignore esports. There's no sport resonating with this audience at this level. And to their credit, ESPN's educated themselves and now actually have a full-time staff covering esports. Here's a recent clip that brought traditional sports and esports together. Gordon Hayward, who's a pro basketball player and a Diamond League of Legends fan, took on the Celtics.
You weren't sick, Neil. I know you were at home playing video games. Last video game I played was Pac-Man. You used to love Pac-Man. Let's play League of Legends with Gordon Hayward. He's our champion against the Celtics. First quarter, Hayward is going to get the mismatch against Isaiah Thomas. Thomas giving up a whole lot of size to him, so you know what? You just take him down and you just bang him in the post. I'd hate a little pinball on you, too. Hayward gets first blood. I used to like Pong. Yeah. Pong was good. Utah then got it going from deep. Raul Neto for 3. Look at the ball. They play with a special ball. A double kill. You got a triple kill.
Triple kill.
Yeah. Jazz on a rampage. Utah unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
That's what I just said. Jazz hit 9 threes in the first half. Third quarter, Hayward beats all 5 Celtics on the floor for the dunk, and that's an ace. Yeah. Looking like dunk master Darius there. Victory for the Jazz. Hayward with 22.
That's so good. It's awesome to see these two worlds collide. For most people, esports has moved from the obscure to an unexplained phenomenon. What they don't realize, though, is that there were always millions and millions of gamers hungry to express their fandom. And we're just trying to capture that passion as best as we possibly can. So what's next now that there's fewer and fewer naysayers out there? Today, I've talked a lot about traditional sports examples. We've really used sports as our guiding light for a lot of the key values to create these consistent, inclusive, and high-quality experiences. But there's important differences that make esports truly unique, and we've only really scratched the surface of this unique potential. We're watching esports with the same passion and intensity that our parents and even our grandparents watch traditional sports. But our experiences can be, rather they need to be very different from their experiences. Esports is a digital sport. It's born in a post-internet age, and fans are highly engaged. It's a deeply demanding audience who won't settle for a passive experience. A lot of fans watch esports while even playing the game at the same time, or tweeting, or discussing the game on chat. They're not just tied to one screen or locked into a passive TV viewing experience. Esport fans want to interact, not just consume. They want tools that allow them a closer, more customized look, that let them try out strategies in their own games, or functionalities that open up the ability to discuss and debate as a community. In-game chat was the first real indicator of the kind of interaction that esport fans want with the game and with one another. We've already started to refine what does it mean to watch the game, including info and stats that are on screen that would actually be confusing and cluttered and crowded if you put it onto a baseball game screen. But the overall experience actually goes way beyond what our cameras can provide. It's our challenge, and the challenge for everyone in esports, to deliver on the next frontier of what's possible. Meeting the needs of a digital audience looking for a second stream experience is one of many examples of this rich space that's ripe for innovation. Understanding a fan base who spends so much of their time trading information in the digital space gives us a really unique insight. It's unheard of before, actually, in any sport. And it's up to us to take it forward, to create the kind of industry that traditional sports will now look towards for learnings on how to reach their audience in a new way, and finally, not the other way around. Equally, it's up to us to take the foundations that we've created and build towards a future where the incredible potential of esports becomes even more real, and it trickles down to players and to teams and to organizations. If you've been paying attention to the moves in the industry recently, you'll have noticed that media, that sponsors, even celebrities now want a piece of a pie because they've seen the numbers and success to date. And we get the question a lot. I mean, this newfound enthusiasm is really exciting to see, but we're not looking for a quick payoff. And with all this attention, many people have been asking us, is this the tipping point? Is this the peak of where esports is going to go? Absolutely not. It's just the beginning. Sports evolved over the course of decades, even centuries in some cases. And in comparison, esports has grown up at a furious and breakneck pace. We've been drinking from the fire hose for only 4 years now, as have many of our counterparts. Our vision when we set up the LCS was to start something that set the foundation for years, even decades to come. And now, with a firm structure beneath us, we're looking to new dreams. A future where pro players are getting the same sort of lucrative contracts that athletes in other sports are making. Where teams and organizations aren't just looking to next year or 2 years down the road, but they're looking 5 to 10 years down the road. Where young kids are looking up to Faker and Doublelift, just like I looked up to Magic Johnson, to see a clear path that they want to follow in their footsteps. Where esport fans are pushing the boundaries of what it truly means to be a fan and engaging with sports in a way that we haven't even dreamt yet. Watching Kirk Gibson smack that home run, it's an experience that I'll never forget. And it's mind-blowing to me to think that we've been part of creating those moments for esport fans all over the world. That feeling of being part of something that's bigger than yourself, it's what being a fan is all about. Esports unlocks the door for millions of gamers to feel that same way. It's up to all of us to create a future that they deserve. Thank you guys very much. I think we have some time for Q&A, although I did a lot of talking, but I think there's 15 minutes for Q&A, so I'll stay around. There's microphones up there if people want to ask anything.
Hi, I have a question over here. First of all, thanks so much. That was a great talk. So it's very clear to me that Riot strives to basically continue to build a very, very competitive game, and you guys have done a really good job at it. I'm wondering, how does the esports scene inform the work of the designers on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. We get asked that a lot. And, you know, it's tough designing a game that is played by such a diverse group of people. Myself as a bronze, silver player to the pros that are unbelievable. And, you know, we take their input along with many other inputs. And so we're not just getting their advice on what needs to change in the game or new changes that we're thinking of, but we're analyzing millions and millions of games and tons of data in order to kind of inform those decisions. But the cool thing is we've been very collaborative with the pros, and we actually even have them on campus before big changes to kind of get their feedback. But the game goes well beyond just the pros that are playing it and appeals to a much larger audience, so it's one input in many.
One of the things that's unique to esports as opposed to real sports is that with real sports, or real world sports, there's a physical infrastructure in place for the popular ones, basketball courts, things like that, that ensure perpetuity. But there's nothing really to prevent another game coming along and supplanting League as the next wave of esports. How do you guys view that and defend against that to maintain League as the dominant esport?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liken it to traditional sports. So think about NFL and NBA. Like, NFL is the NFL, and if there's an XFL or a competing league, same with the NBA and the CBA, you know, they've kind of established themselves as that sport for that genre. And we view ourselves as the kind of leading MOBA esport. And you know, that doesn't mean that there can't be other esports that exist. So there's tons of shooter esports and, you know, card game esports. And so there's, the cool thing is this isn't kind of an us or them. It is esports as a whole, and we want to be very collaborative with other esports and look, in fact, our team watches a bunch of esports too. So I think that this world's big enough to have a lot of different people playing in it.
All right, over here. So this is more like a job question, but for someone trying to get into the esports, what kind of talent would Riot or other companies be looking for? How can you enter this field of work?
Yeah, so the question is, what kind of talent do we look for? I'd say the number one attribute that we're looking for is passion, and truly loving what you do and being a fan of it lets you kind of work better. If you're working in a job that you don't like or can't relate to, that's tough. And so being a passionate gamer is something that is kind of critical to every position that we hire at Riot, not just in esports. For esports specifically, you know, we like people that have experience in traditional sports or even in esports, but for the most part, we like to hire athletes. I didn't have a background in esports other than I love to play the game and love to watch the games. But for the most part, we're looking for people that have great work ethic and, again, are passionate about sports.
Hi, thank you for the talk. Do you have any thoughts about trying to make esports popular on mobile platforms, Vainglory, Clash Royale, all that, considering the differences in platform and audience and et cetera?
Yeah, you know, we actually have a good part of our audience that watch our game on mobile. In terms of kind of porting our game over to mobile, it wouldn't make sense for League of Legends at this time. What we kind of pride ourselves on is being a fan-focused company and a player-focused company, and so we're going to go where our players are. But, you know, for League of Legends, all of our players are on PC, and that's where we're focused for now.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So my numbers may be a little out of date, but something like 10 million people play football in the United States, and the Super Bowl was watched by like 120 plus million. League has like 40 million monthly unique players, and the League Championship finals were watched by like 20 million. Are there any plans to change either the league structure or the game itself in order to broaden the appeal beyond the player base?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and you know, we've always been hyper focused on our players. The goal is never to set attendance records or viewership records. We don't kind of stack our success next to the NBA or to the NFL, and so that's not really been a focus of ours. We're going to be laser focused on catering to our audience. I think that over time it's going to appeal to a larger and larger audience, but I think that might be more of a generational thing as younger people who have kind of grown up with games and grow up with esports graduate into something like League of Legends or some of the other video games.
You said in your talk how you sort of took aspects of other sports and their championships and how they're played, and you implemented them into your esports experience. As an avid NHL, I love the LA Kings. The great thing about the NHL championship experience is they give the trophy to the players first. And I really love how esports did that as well, because as a gamer and a watcher of the players, I really got attached to certain ones. Like, I would love how this person's plays, or I want to play like that. And having them feel that emotion, I can feel the emotion with them, how they do that. So is there like a process that you did to implement those sort of things? Because you said you went to a game and sort of experienced it that way. Is that sort of like what you did?
Yeah, I mean, the dirty little secret behind our trophy is when we decided to have that Season 2 championship, we didn't have a trophy. And so we had 6 weeks to go make our Summoner's Cup, and it actually ended up weighing 80 pounds. And before they could hollow it out so that it was more kind of liftable by our players, we didn't have time to do it, so we rushed it out. But yes, the goal there was, these are the players and the champions that have won this. They're the ones who are hoisting it in the air, and that kind of epic moment and that feeling of kind of victory where they've literally endured a season-long gauntlet of making it to where they are. That's what we wanted to capture, and so that was the kind of essence behind that.
One of the major differences between traditional sports and esports is, of course, the fact that everything's always changing, like in terms of rules. You're always having patches and tweaks, and you're always adding new characters. Obviously, on like a game level, that's really healthy to keep fans engaged and to always have something new for people to look forward to. But I'm curious about on the esports level, if you guys have ever struggled with that, or like the challenge of it's not just a single set of rules that is always the same.
That is a very tightrope that we have to walk, and it's a constant battle and kind of very tough to master. But the cool part about the game is it's kind of ever evolving and fresh. But you're right, it is a difficult challenge to balance.
Hey, Dustin. Riot also runs the College Law series. I was curious how you saw its role within kind of the larger esports ecosystem.
It's a great question. It's a separate team that runs that, so we have a collegiate team over at Riot, but that's been really cool and exciting for us to see it evolve kind of year over year. It's in a really good place right now, and you know, as a diehard USC fan, I watch anything where USC is playing UCLA, whether it's basketball or football, and so I think that it's really cool to see that evolving at college campuses, and I think we have hundreds of clubs now at these various colleges across North America, and so it's been fun to watch that start to gain some momentum.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Dustin, phenomenal presentation, man. Congratulations. I do have a legit question, but I got kind of a selfish one, too. I'm just dying to know your War 2 handle. I used to play the crap out of that.
So it was DB Blitz.
DB Blitz, yeah. Nice. I was DI Ash back in the day.
There you go. I probably played against you. Were you map hacking? Were you?
No way, dude, never.
Because I was.
Damn you! All right, forget. So you talked about how you're looking at sports as your kind of your inspiration, and I'm wondering, you guys are kind of leading the charge. I mean, you can see in all this imagery. How much do you look at other games and their esports growth compared to other sports as inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about being at Riot is that we hire gamers, and so it's not just League that we play. We're playing all different games. We're watching a bunch of different games, and there's cool learnings that a bunch of our peers in the industry are doing. So kind of just like sports, it's not like we only look at the NFL or the NBA. We're looking at the entire scene, and we're taking, promotion, relegation from European soccer, consistency from the NFL. We kind of do the same as we evaluate other esports and what they're doing. And we're excited about the movement that so many other companies are now kind of investing into esports as well, because we think it's a kind of raise the tides of the ocean, and all the boats are going to do good. So,
cheers.
Right, so I think one of the main things for someone who doesn't understand what's going on to establish legitimacy is the amount of money involved in tournaments and stuff. So with the success that the massive prize pools that Valve gets for the international based on crowdfunding their prize pool, why hasn't Riot followed suit?
Yeah, we've been more focused on creating these weekly kind of consistent structure with a global regional fan base. It's not better or worse than what Valve's doing with their kind of one-off tournaments, but the cool thing is what we wanted to do is not have a couple teams that were making a huge amount of money for this big one-off tournament, but have an ecosystem where 10 teams just in North America, let alone Brazil or Turkey or China or Korea, also have, you know, almost a dozen teams in all those regions. And what we're starting to see in our first couple of years is a little challenging because incomes were very low, but as the sport has grown and viewership's evolved, salaries are actually getting a whole lot higher. So in China, some of the top players are actually making $1 million a year, and we're seeing pros in North America making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and the rate with which it's increasing has been phenomenal for us to see. So it's a little bit of a different system. It's not right or wrong, but it is different, and kind of we're excited about the path we've chosen.
Hey, Dustin. So League of Legends has done really well with female gamers. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about why there seems to be an underrepresentation of high-level female gamers.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, we had a female pro in the LCS for a little bit this year, which was really exciting to see. But you know, I think it's only a matter of time until women get into the sport at a professional level, and it's really cool because without that kind of physicality that kind of stunts that ability for the NFL to have a female player. Not that it'll never happen. I think our sport's probably at the cutting edge for there to be a sport that has women and men participating kind of next to each other. Sorry.
Is Riot doing anything for on-ramping or that helps or to speed that along?
It hasn't been a focus of ours yet. I mean, I think the reason that you're not seeing it is still a large majority of our players are males. And so as you think about it, like just the law of averages, you can have more males than females. But it's something that we're hoping happens in the kind of short term.
Thanks.
Oh, last question. Sorry, guys.
So earlier you talked about those interested in getting into esports showing their passion. For college students, people who really don't have as many opportunities to really show off what they can do, they're still learning, they're still getting their education. What would you recommend for them to be able to show their passion for those that want to get involved in esports going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and Riot specifically looks to a lot of colleges for our recruiting. I think the best thing you can do is truly immerse yourself in the experience and get as involved as you can, whether that's collegiate clubs or streaming or kind of doing whatever you can. I mean, it's kind of on an individual basis of really following your passion and kind of what stands out to you. Is it shoutcasting? Is it playing the game? Is it league operations? The cool thing is with this industry kind of bursting at the seams, I know just even at Riot, we're looking for talent kind of night and day, and so the industry is growing and job opportunities are being created. But as advice to kind of you, to just focus on what you're passionate about and what you love, and try and get as involved as you can with either local League of Legends scenes or whatever you can do.
Thank you.
Yep. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.